Hello everyone, and welcome back to February on the Cozy Chair. I hope that you're enjoying all these fairy tales, and I have another one for you. This is for Ezra. Hello Ezra, I hope you like this book. This is Rumpelstiltskin. Can you all say that? Rumpelstiltskin? It's kind of a tricky thing to say, don't you think? Well, this is retold and illustrated by Paul O. Zelinsky. Now, I have a couple of editions of this book. I have it in my classic fairy tales book, and I have it in another children's book. But this one, look, it has the Caldecott Honor Award. Do you know how books get that? They get that because they have really good illustrations. And Paul O. Zelinsky, he has a lot of really cool books. So you should go to the library and check out some of his books. We'll get to some more of his later in the year, but today we are going to hear about Rumpelstiltskin. Once there was a poor miller who had a beautiful daughter. On his way to town one day, the miller encountered the king. Wanting to impress him, the miller said, "I have a daughter who knows the art of spinning straw into gold." Is that really possible? Oh my goodness. Now the king had a passion for gold, and such an art intrigued him. So he ordered the miller to send his daughter to the castle straight away. When the girl was brought before him, the king led her to a room that was filled with straw. He gave her spools and a spinning wheel and said, "You may spin all night, but if you have not spun the straw into gold by morning, you will have to die." With that, he locked the door, and the girl was left inside alone. That poor girl, look, can you see in there? She's been led into this room that is filled with straw. And what will happen if she doesn't do it? She will die. There sat the poor miller's daughter without the slightest idea of how anyone could spin straw into gold. For the life of her, she did not know what to do. She grew more and more frightened, and then she began to weep. Suddenly, the door sprang open, and a tiny man stepped in. "Good evening, Mistress Miller," he said. "Why are you sobbing?" "Oh," the girl cried, I must spin the straw into gold, and I don't know how." She is so worried. "What will you give me if I spin it for you?" the little man asked. "My necklace," answered the girl. The little man took her necklace and sat down at the spinning wheel. He pulled 3 times, whir, 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 and the spool was wound full of gold thread. He fitted another spool on, and whir, 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 3 pulls, and that one too was full. And so it went until morning, when all the straw was spun, and all the spools were full of gold. Wow! When I was a kid and I read this book, I thought, I wish I knew how to do that. Then I'd be so rich with all of that gold. When the king came at sunrise, he was amazed and delighted, but all that gold only made him greedier. So he led the miller's daughter to a larger room filled with straw, and he ordered her to spin the straw too before dawn, if she valued her life. Look at that big chamber. It is full of straw. The girl did not know what to do. She began to weep. Once again, the door opened and the little man stepped in. "What will you give me if I spin this straw into gold for you?" he asked. "The ring on my finger," answered the girl, and the little man took her ring. Then he set the spinning wheel whirring, and before the night was over, he had spun all the straw into gleaming gold. Shortly after sunrise, the king returned. Piles of golden spools. Look at those piles. They're enormous. They glowed in the morning light. The king rejoiced at the sight of so much gold. But still, he was not satisfied. He led the miller's daughter to a third, even bigger room that was piled high with straw. "Tonight you must spin this straw too," ordered the king, "and if you succeed, you shall become my wife." "No, what's that called? If a king marries somebody?" "That's called a queen. If she does it, she will become queen." Because, he thought, I could not find a richer wife in all the world. When the king had left, the little man appeared for the third time. "What will you give me if I spin it for you yet once more?" he asked. "I have nothing else," the girl replied. "Then promise that when you become queen, your first child will belong to me." The miller's daughter gasped. How could she promise such a thing? Then she thought, "But who knows whether that will ever happen?" And as she could think of no other way to save herself, she promised. And the little man once again spun all the straw into gold. Wow, take a look at that room. That king sure is greedy, isn't he? When the king came in the morning and found everything as he had wished, he married the miller's beautiful daughter, and she became queen. Can you see these beautiful illustrations? Can you see why maybe he would get that wonderful award for this book? Uh-oh, I wonder what's going to happen now. A year passed, and the queen brought a handsome baby boy into the world. She gave scarcely a thought to the little man, but one day he appeared suddenly in her room. "Now give me what you promised me," he demanded. The queen pleaded with the little man. He could take all the royal treasures if he would only let her keep her child. But her pleading was in vain. Then she began to weep so piteously that at last the little man was moved. "I will give you 3 days," he said. "If by the end of that time you know my name, you may keep your child." Oh my goodness. She's got to find out what his name is. She doesn't want to give up her baby. Of course not. Long into the night, the queen sat and thought the next day, thinking over all the names she had ever heard. That evening, the little man returned, beginning with Casper, Melchior, Balthazar. The queen recited every name she knew, one after another, but to each the little man replied, "No, that's not my name. That is not my name." Oh, she is looking so perplexed. Isn't she? She's so worried. She's thought about all the names that she knows. The second day, the queen had inquiries made into town, searching for new names. And when the little man came that evening, she posed the strangest and most unusual ones to him. She tried Beastie Ribs and Lego Ram and String Bones, but he would only reply, "That is not my name." Oh no, she only has one more day. Now the queen grew truly frightened, and she sent her most faithful servant into the woods to look for the little man. The servant searched through the thickets and over clearings deep into the forest. At last, near the top of a high hill, she spied him. He was riding on a cooking spoon around a great fire and crying, "I brew my beer, I bake my loaves, as soon as the queen's own son I'll claim. Oh, lucky me, for no one knows that Rumpelstiltskin is my name." The servant made her way back as fast as she could manage, and at midday reached the castle. You can imagine how glad the queen was when she heard the name. Oh, now she knows. Late that evening, the little man arrived. "Now, Mrs. Queen," he said, "do you know my name, or do I take the child?" So the queen asked him, "Is your name Will?" "No." "Is your name Phil?" "No." "In that case, is your name Rumpelstiltskin?" "The devil told you that! The devil told you that!" shrieked Rumpelstiltskin, and in a fury he jumped on his cooking spoon and flew out the window. Phew! She found out his name! And he never was heard from again. There she is, so happy that Rumpelstiltskin is gone. So what did you think about that? Did you like it? Was it an interesting fairy tale? Had you heard it before? Well, I hope that you will come right back, because look what we're going to read next. Little Red Riding Hood. I love the story of Little Red Riding Hood. So make sure to come right back, and make sure to tell your mommies and daddies to send you a Valentine. They can email me at thecozychairclub@gmail.com, or they can send me a message on Instagram at thecozychairclub. So I'll be looking for all of your Valentines. Thanks for coming. See you next time.